Trump only gets justice through winning, how the GOP was fooled by COVID, what is Trump promising for term 2, Biden thinks COVID killed over a third of America, the return of Democrat struggle sessions, and an unusual mask requirement in Oregon County. Coming up. Welcome to the Buck Sexton Show, everybody. Man, thank goodness it is Friday. Gonna have some fun, show you how it's done. TGIF, that's where we are. We could all use a weekend, I think, right now. I believe that the weekends, more than I've seen in a long time. It used to be weekends were for fun. Now I find weekends are for regrouping, finding some peace, finding some ability to rejuvenate and rehabilitate yourself from a week of craziness, whether you're on lockdown still in some capacity or you're in a city or a place where now there's a resurgence of all this fear and anxiety around COVID-19. I'm happy, though, to see that finally they're about, 2 weeks behind? When did I first tell you on this show that the Trump movement was losing right now? I think it was at least a week, maybe 2 weeks ago. And now everyone's like, oh, gosh, it actually looks like this isn't working. It looks like just the tweets on Law and Order aren't enough. Indeed. I bring this up not to be that guy who says, look at me, I was right, because so many people that have shows only tell you about the times they're right and they forget about the times where they were oh so very wrong. But I bring it up because it's necessary for us to continue to be honest about what we're seeing, or else we're just going to lose. And one concept that I want to make sure that all conservatives have in mind, I want to spread this far and wide. I've been talking to you about wartime conservatism. I've been talking to you about what I think we need to be prepared for going forward. Trump only gets justice through winning. Remember years ago, he said, you're going to win so much, you're going to get tired of winning. I am not. You are not. There's still a lot of work to be done. And once you think about the way that the Democrats have planned this whole thing out, they used Russia collusion, a completely false narrative, to slow down the administration for 3 years. And they've suffered no consequences from this at all, which is appalling and terrible, but that's where things are. And let's be honest about it. I wish I could come here and just blow a lot of smoke around about how great everything's going. But what we are seeing now is a transition to exploiting a tough period for the United States for the Democrats' purposes. So they made up big challenges and they made up a whole narrative of treason and Russia and being a Manchurian candidate and all this. So they made all that up just entirely. And now we have transitioned to things are bad and they decide to make it all worse. Right? Things are rough with the economy, with COVID-19. We'll talk more about that today on the show. The only way that this turns around is if President Trump is able to lead the movement in a way that normal people, and we're never going to win over the crazy libs. The Democrats who are dancing on top of cars and destroying things and pulling down statues, you're never going to get them to stop being crazy. They're done. They're gone. But when you look at the polling, when you look at perception, and the polls match the perception that I'm seeing and everyone else that I know who's honest about it, right now things are going against the administration. How do we turn all of this around? First of all, we need focus from this president. And I'm just going to say it. We need some fighters around this president. We need some, he might have to, reach into the Rolodex a little bit here and get some people. I mean, I'm just going to say this. And, I'm not trying to be unfair to anybody who's working with him or around him right now. But who is really fired up and making the case about this? This shouldn't be, we want police reform too, and how can we get the Senate to pass a better bill so Democrats are... No! This should be, hey, stop acting like a bunch of savages and barbarians out in the streets. Stop destroying our history, you ignorant fools. You want to have a conversation? We have conversations about adult things here. How do we get people back to work? What do we do about 40 million plus jobs lost? That's at least worth our time. This other stuff, this is all just distraction and destruction. Who's making that case right now? You know, I mean, I think that Kelly McEnany's doing a good job battling with the press, you know, in these conferences, but that's just dealing with the incoming. That's not going on offense. Who's making the case to the American people right now? Who is fired up about this? I'm sorry, it's not the same Trump right now, and he needs, you know, I just watched this fantastic series. I finished it, I watched it and then I finished it this past week. The Last Dance series on, it's about the Bulls and their 6 championships as a team. You know, Trump is the Michael Jordan of the Trump movement, obviously. But, you know, you see, and there are times when he got a little down. There was a time when he got food poisoning in a huge game. I mean, other people have to step up. People around Trump in the administration, people that can advise him. Whoever has been advising Trump for the last month has done a catastrophically bad job in dealing with these protests and the movement. Catastrophically bad. Couldn't have been any worse, really. Really couldn't have been any worse. And I'm sitting here as somebody who I'm going to go to the mat. I'm going to do everything I can to help this guy get reelected. He's not perfect, and that's putting it mildly, but darn it, we see what the opposition is. The polls should be going in the other direction. How can the American people see what's happening, hear these narratives, all this terribly toxic, racially divisive stuff that Democrats and the lib media are just pumping out there all the time? And our side is losing ground? This crisis of lack of law enforcement and this crisis of attacks on law enforcement and the fact, I mean, they're playing audio. I know this was on a Tucker show last night of people calling into the cops and they're like, sorry, it's a sanctioned protest. Wait, whatever happened to social distancing? Whatever happened to we all have to do our part? My friends, these people, the libs, the Dems, the socialists are ruthless. Ruthless. They don't care. And this is the part that we all have to get past. They don't care how much they lie. They don't care how miserable they're making you, how much destruction they're wreaking on the economy. If they cared about those things, don't you think that they would have been relatively pleased with how excellent the first 3 years of the Trump economy were? No big wars, no unnecessary conflicts abroad started, a boom in productivity and household wealth and per capita wealth, wages rising, and all they did was complain about Russia. These people are lunatics. They're lunatics. And if you think that the suffering, and this is the root fallacy that we are dealing with right now, that if things get bad enough in the cities, then people will turn around. No. This is an insurgency. Something that I know a bit about, and many of you watching who actually served in the military, and thank you for your service. You know, if I was able to help you find some of the bad guys dressed like I was going on a camping trip when I was working for the CIA, you guys, those of you who are in Spec Ops know what I'm talking about. If I was able to help, great. But you guys were doing the real fighting. And you know from insurgency that the big problem that the state has, the authority, the power, the system, the apparatus, is that the government has to provide security and services. Now, that's complicated, and governments generally aren't very good, particularly at the second one, but they're not even that good necessarily at the first. And all the insurgents have to do is create misery and despair and destruction. This is a Democrat insurgency against America. That's what is happening right now. Okay, the Democrat Party that complained about what Trump was doing to the apparatus, that complained about what Trump was doing to our system of democracy, has figured out, oh, well, now that things are actually tough, and COVID-19 is a big challenge. COVID-19 does make things harder. Now that that's actually happening, what have they done? Completely flipped it, and they're attacking the system with everything they have. Undermine it, ruin it, crush it, pull down those statues, lop off the heads of sculptures, pull down every aspect of American society that they can that undermines our sense of a shared history and a common purpose today and going forward as a people. America is an idea. That they're attacking the idea of America is not in the least bit something we can overlook or this will pass. No, they've brought this into our house. Are we going to let them get away with this? They're trying to pull down the American experiment and with it the American dream and build something on its ashes. Joe Biden is a Trojan horse. Why do you think they picked him? Oh, Joe Biden's been in politics for 40 years. He can't. Joe Biden doesn't know what time it is. Joe Biden doesn't know where he is. Joe Biden, I'm Joe Biden. No idea what's going on. He's perfect for them. He's perfect. I mean, the Democrats, if they could get away with voting for a cadaver or a sack of potatoes, they would. Joe Biden's the next best thing, the closest thing they can get away with. The guy with no core beliefs, kind of been around a long time, has name recognition, attached to Obama because he was vice president, so that helps him out. That's all it is. He's going to do whatever the activists left that even the Democrats are terrified of now. Don't you see? Even the Democrats can't control this beast of the left that has been unleashed on the country. And they either go along with it or they're going to get eaten by it too. They know this. So what are the establishment players? The ruthless, self-involved, self-dealing, narcissistic Democrat establishment. What are they doing? They're trying to just say, okay, well, we'll do our part. We'll put forward a guy that, voters in Ohio who, understandably, voters in Pennsylvania and Florida who just want things to feel more normal and go back to normal. They're like, well, if Trump can't make things normal, what good is he? I'll try the other guy. And, that doesn't make them bad people. This is a sophisticated, and it doesn't make them even, I can't even blame them for the choice in a sense because the Democrats have such a bigger propaganda machine. They're so dishonest. And there's some truth to the failure of the Trump movement that is occurring before our eyes right now when we have lawlessness on the streets, in the capital city of this country, in the financial capital of this country. There's an Occupy movement, which I told you was going to happen, and you know that I predicted this. There's an Occupy movement outside City Hall now. Occupy Wall Street all over again, but they're not going to focus in on Wall Street. They're just focusing in on the tactics and the tools the left has used in the past. This president is a brawler. That's why we put him in office. We know what the left does. We know the Romneyite, Paul Ryan, McCain approach to politics in America is just slowing the spread of socialism and authoritarianism. That's all it does. And makes concessions along the way that validates many of the far left's demands. Oh, look at what, Mitt Romney is marching with Black Lives Matter, right? I mean, this is the mentality. Trump comes in and says, no, I'm not going to do what you tell me to do. And you're not going to just pressure me into not doing things because that's not what the establishment wants. Where is that Trump? Where is that Trump? Where is the fire in the belly? And where are the people around him who are getting fired up? Who in this White House is out there making the case? Who at the top of a major agency or a major wing of the administration is really taking action here? My friends, we need to wake up and rally. The insurgents are winning. They're all over the country. They have control of 90%, 95% of the media. They have control of corporate America. They're all terrified. Remember, corporate America generally would rather not be political, but anything that is political, they always are going to go left because the leftists have established that they'll boycott, they'll attack, they'll cancel. We don't have that in conservative culture. We don't have that as part of our mentality. So we always lose with corporate America now. We have to start to work to change all of this. We have been given, in a sense, a gift, a huge opening. The Democrats are a bunch of lawless, wannabe revolutionary socialists who will tear down the achievements of this country, who will tear down our basic American unity. Trump has a pitch coming right down the middle with this. But so far, he's missed the last 2 pitches. We're getting close to strike 3 here. Now, I know he can put this in the upper deck. I know he did it before. He's done it many times. But it's incumbent upon all of us to rally in whatever way we can to understand this moment in our history and to push with every ounce of our being toward the restoration of law and order, the love of this country that the Republican Party is supposed to represent, and the defeat of this very real challenge to our government and to our system and to our way of life. That is what is at stake right now. You know, this is not the 2008 election. This is something else. Working from home is driving up the worst type of cybercrime, home title theft. We're doing it all from home these days. Working, banking, video conferences, meal deliveries, and shopping. Cyber criminals are targeting our homes. Actually, they want the money they can get by taking out loans against your home. The crime is home title theft. The FBI is warning people about it all the time. Home Title Lock is how you protect your home from cyber thieves. Your home's legal title's online where they find it and forge your signature stating you sold your home to them. Then they'll take out loans on your home and leave you in debt. Banks, insurance, and basic identity theft services don't protect you. Home Title Lock puts a virtual barrier around your home's title. Protect your home now. Go to HometitleLock.com and register your address to see if you're already a victim. And use code BUCK for 30 free days of protection to help you through this crisis. That's Home Title Lock, code BUCK. Again, HometitleLock.com, code BUCK. Check it out today.
The toughest nation to deal with are the Democrats in the USA. Sure. The Democrats in the USA are much tougher to deal with than any of these people that we deal with. They're far more unreasonable, and actually they're a little crazy. They
are. And they have been made crazier by Trump. You have to remember that much of what their identity is, many of them have no sense of, look, I'm just going to say it. They tend to not be very religious. They have no sense of a built-in honor. They really believe that their political ideology is a defining characteristic of who they are, and that their politics is also a part of their personal brand. So libs, Democrats think because they're libs and Democrats, they're better people, and they know more, and they have a better understanding of what's going to happen. Well, then Trump comes in, and they were so convinced that he was going to just nuke the whole world, that everything would be terrible, and it didn't happen. And so now what they're doing is they're nuking the country, so to speak. They're destroying everything so they can blame it on Trump. I mean, this is purposeful destruction. This is using the system against Trump because Trump was able to do very well within the existing political system. Right? This is if I can't have power, nobody can, and then I'll rebuild it and create my own power structure. This is I'll take the ball home with me and not let anyone else play with it. This is the crybaby childishness of the Democrats, but it's also a dangerous mentality because you can't reason with this. How can you reason with anybody who thinks that if someone thinks that these protests are going to change anything for the better in this country, they're delusional. And if someone thinks that this protest movement should not be held accountable for providing cover and ideological push for looting and rioting and violent assaults, they're either a fraud or an idiot. Those are the basic truths of what's happening right now in the country. I want everybody to make sure they understand that. All right, this isn't, oh, yeah, sure, the protests have valid grievances. Crap. It went from George Floyd to pull down statues in the blink of an eye. What does one have to do with the other? Agitation. Marxist, class, and race division agitation. That's all this was ever about.
We warned them about, as early as January, the middle of January, I was saying the pandemic is coming. We should be prepared. Why don't you use the legislation, the act that's available to a Defense Production Act to make companies move and build the things they need to build, provide the protective gear, build hospitals, etc.
Yeah, I warned about it. Biden. No, I'm down in the basement. Trump.
I mean, this is who the Democrats say should be the leader of the free world. Say what you will about Trump, but in 2016, that guy was en fuego at rally after rally, fired up 2-3 hours at a time, extemporaneous speaking, making jokes, making salient points, getting people fired up. It was not possible to make a case that Trump didn't have the energy and the stamina to be president when he was running.
Biden, Joe Biden. I've been in politics for 207. No, that's not right. 207 years. That's not right.
If you think I'm being unfair, which you probably don't because you listen to this show and you're funny and savvy and smart, but if you think I'm being unfair, then you should probably hear what Joe Biden said about the latest COVID death numbers. Producer Brandon, please play clip 4.
Unnecessarily, now we have over 120 million dead from COVID.
We have 120 million dead from maybe it was 1.2 billion or something. There's a lot. There's 1.2 billion dead. We didn't even have that many people, but they reanimate them and people come back and it's like zombie apocalypse. I saw a movie and there were birds and then the unicorns and this is what the presidency is going to be. This is what the president's going to be. Get ready for it. Actually, I've got to tell you. And look, I like the people I like and I like my friends in this business. So, because I get heat sometimes. Some of you heard I've had Ann Coulter on my show on WR pretty regularly because we have fun and she likes to call in and chat. And I know that she's been critical of Trump, but guys, her criticisms recently are correct. She's trying to help the Trump movement win. She's a harsh critic sometimes, but an honest one. And she's been right about this. And she's got a tweet about Joe Biden that I think completely nails it. She wrote, and this is in response to what I just played. Either 45 bottles of beer on the wall.
Ann Coulter is out there saying this: a Biden presidency will be like the Mueller investigation, a senile white male figurehead with lunatic leftists running the show. Absolutely correct. And they're going to try so hard. They're going to tell everyone, oh, Joe Biden's an establishment. He's a moderate. He's an establishment figure. Notice how you never have Republicans running for office pretending to be something. I mean, at the national level, to be president, pretending to be something completely different from what they are. Right. The head fake that the Democrats will do this is just part of the strategy. That they'll put forward. They will actively try to fool voters. Republicans, they don't always get to follow through on the promise because the Congress won't go with it or whatever it is. But you're not getting a different person than you think you're getting. You just might get somebody who's not quite as good a version of that person as the candidate was promising. With Democrats, it's all a scam. It's all a fraud. Whatever they have to do, that is what they will do. Anything for power. And understand that they're being a little quiet right now about who are the people that are saying when your enemy's making a mistake, don't interrupt him. This is the worst advice imaginable right now for Trump. The enemy is gaining right now. Okay, this is like saying, let's abandon all of our forward operating bases because, the enemy's not going to be able to keep the lights on and everything. Let's just abandon all of our bases to the enemy. They're not going to be able to keep the logistics going for the bases they're taking over. People out of their minds? Think about this. This is a political conflict, but if you think strategically about it like an armed conflict, this is why I keep saying, think about it like a wartime conservative. It all makes much more sense. You can go back to Clausewitz, right? Politics is war by other means. So that's what you should be thinking about. That's what you should have in your head as we see what's going on here. But they're also going to, all these big left-wing ideas, if Biden wins, they're also going to take the Senate. They're probably going to hold the House. So you have the Senate, the House, and Biden, who is just a puppet of the left. They're going to try to do things like the Green New Deal. And this COVID pandemic is going to be used as a template. They have gotten away, and conservatives, we have been far too complacent on this. I mean, I don't know. Do I have to go out and get arrested for violating like social distancing or something? I don't know. I'm just so outnumbered here in New York City that it's not even clear to me how I could do this. But if I owned a small business and I could go and open up shop, I would do it. Protest, civil disobedience. This has to happen from our side, too. They have taken away our rights. They've just swept them away with the stroke of a pen, not even using the legislature. Just, executive order. Stay home. Can't do your business. Wear a stupid thing on your face all the time. Shower with it. Sleep with it all the time. Don't go outside without it. Because we say so, peasant. And we've all been like, okay, we'll do our part. This is how Republicans got fooled. This is how we got played. We were used. And Trump got played. I'm going to say it. I know people don't like to hear it. But have I ever been unfair to this president? In the 4 years of his presidency, and those of you who've been listening to me for years, have I ever once been really unfair to him? No. And he knows that I'm not unfair to him. He knows that I'm rooting for him, trying to help. I want him to win. I'm the coach who's saying it's the fourth quarter and we're down 10 points and our star player needs to get his head in the game. I mean, not that I'm the coach of the conservative movement, but you know what I mean for the analogy's purposes. I'm trying to get us to the degree that I can. And you might say, oh, well, how much does this matter? I mean, there are hundreds of thousands of people who listen to this show every day. There are millions of people who will read my tweets and what I'm saying about this every day. So, I mean, I'm doing what I can. There are people with bigger platforms even who are a little tepid. Don't want to lose some of those big corporate sponsors. Don't want to have to deal with any real heat. No. Much more fun to, helicopter from one of a dozen homes to another and go to all of the different private studios. So I'm just trying to say that we need to recognize what a Biden presidency would be, as well as understand that we're losing and we have to get on offense. This is not working. This strategy is not working. Biden, and they exploited us. And I didn't mean to skip past that point. They exploited our goodwill and good faith because as Republicans, as conservatives, I think we thought of the COVID-19 thing the way we think about a war. I'll tell you this right now. If the Chinese had invaded while Obama was president, I mean, really, like if they had landed on our shores and President Obama's like, guys, we got a fight on our hands. I'm like, that's my commander in chief. Give me a rifle and a helmet. I'm going to go fight those invaders. I'll do everything I can for this commander in chief because there are some things that are beyond politics, right? There are some things where your Americanness is the single most important factor. And I really mean that. And I was cheering for Obama after the bin Laden raid. I know that it was SEAL Team 6 and not Obama that rappelled down and took out bin Laden. But there are some areas where you would like to be able to put your partisanship aside. The left exploited that, our decency, our good faith, our goodwill on COVID and turned it against us. And we said, all right, okay, look, we know this is going to be terrible for the economy, but you guys are all really scared and no one really knows what's going on here. And we got all the public health experts. But we're in this together, right? They told us we're in this together. A million times I heard this. Well, we were in this together until there was a left-wing protest movement that needed to get out there and take over the streets and terrorize people and tear down statues and light buildings on fire. Then all of a sudden we weren't in the COVID-19 fight together anymore. All of a sudden that just evaporated. It took advantage of us. That's what happened. Took advantage of our good faith, our goodwill. And they're also doing that with these completely reckless and feckless accusations of racism that are all, there are specific accusations of racism they'll make against people, but also now we live in a society where you're subject to being called or considered racist constantly for things that are not racist. And that's actually part of the narrative that we're all dealing with right now, that merely your whiteness means you are a part of a system that is racist, and therefore your existence is additive to a racist system. You're contributing to racism. That's what white privilege means. Boil it down. Look closely at it. That's what white privilege really means. You have to expunge the sins of the racism of your very existence. What could be more divisive, and I would argue just more immoral a philosophy of public life and of American lives than this? You're a bad person because of who you are. I'll tell you this, run an experiment. Go, if you want, go on social media. You can say anything you want about whiteness. You can prostrate yourself, make videos of yourself, just cutting your own fingers and saying that, you're so sorry. Remember, how the Yakuza does that thing where they'll slice off their fingers with a katana. Don't do this, obviously, but they'll slice off a finger with a katana blade or whatever the smaller sword is. Some of you will know. Not the katana. It's the smaller one that the samurais would carry. You could do that. Yakuza is, of course, the Japanese mafia. And say that you're so sorry for your whiteness. And people would say, that person's really stepping up. They're really accepting their white privilege. Say that white people are horrible. White people are terrible. The worst. Oh, you think I'm exaggerating? There are people out there who have run this experiment. At least one's very famous, Pulitzer Prize winner. You want to hear what she had to say some years ago? Team, we've talked about Nikole Hannah-Jones before on this show. She is the primary author behind the Pulitzer Prize winning. Oh, the Pulitzer Prize, the height of journalism. 1619 Project, which is a straight up propaganda project. That is what it is. And even the most established historians of that period of American history have come out to say, look, there's just a lot of historical inaccuracy, a lot of things omitted that are egregious in this. It's just not giving you a real picture of what was going on and what the thinking was. And this is just, and they don't care. They don't care. New York Times doesn't care because it's about the left. It's about mobilization. This has become very important for the left right now. And that brings me then to the latest from Nikole Hannah-Jones. She, you may recall, gotten a little bit of public pressure. I wouldn't say real heat. They're never going to fire her from the New York Times. Doesn't matter what she does. Joy Reid, who's at MSNBC, to give you a sense of the double standards that exist in media. I just saw this. Joy Reid is at MSNBC. She wrote anti-gay stuff on her blog. I'm like, really anti-gay stuff, whatever it was, 10 years ago? Fine. No problem. Got her own show now at MSNBC. So if you're a lib that the media, if you're a lib that the left finds useful, they like you, different rules, doesn't matter. So Nikole Hannah-Jones is over the New York Times, and she's also just unfireable. Doesn't matter what she does. She can say that there's and she shared this, read this, shared a Twitter thread about a conspiracy theory that the reason all these fireworks fights are happening predominantly in minority neighborhoods in major cities. That's where it's happening. It was originally a George Floyd protest, they said. Yeah, right. Sure it is. Was a white establishment plot to keep black people up at night and turn them against each other at this pivotal moment of political mobilization. She shared that from her official account, which has a huge following. She's like, yeah, this is a good theory. So I don't know if she's a fraud or a moron, but I don't see a third choice. I don't. That brings me then to what's in her heart. What does she really think? What does she really believe? Now, I had told you before that if you want to, and you whether you're white or any other ethnicity, you can go on TV, or not, well, TV, yes, but you can go online and say the most damaging things imaginable about white people and just the craziest things, there's nothing you can say about whiteness that is too much for the left. You can't put it, they will never say, whoa, settle down. Like, I know some good white people. Nope. Never going to happen. Whatever you want to say right now. And this is important that you remember. This is the country we live in now. When she was a student, I suppose at Notre Dame, because she wrote into the Notre Dame Observer, Ms. Jones wrote in a letter to the editor. Now, granted, she was in college, but remember, Kavanaugh was in high school when he allegedly groped a girl that he did not and who was crazy and who was part of a political hit on him. But, you know, his high school behavior was supposed to keep him from being on the Supreme Court. So I'm sorry. Now what you write in college, no longer fair game? Says who? This is a Pulitzer Prize winning, perhaps the most famous new writer at the New York Times. And here's what she used to write when she was in college. Dear editors, I was shocked and disgusted when I read Fred Kelly's article in the issue of The Observer. What responsible editor would print an article that applauds and dignifies the white race's rape, plunder, and genocide of a whole race of people? I find it hard to believe that any member of the white race can have the audacity and hypocrisy to call any other culture savage. The white race is the biggest murderer, rapist, pillager, and thief of the modern world. Europeans have colonized and destroyed indigenous populations on every planet. They've committed genocide against cultures that have never offended them in their greed and insatiable desire to control and dominate every non-white culture. Christopher Columbus and those like him were no different than Hitler. The crimes they committed were unnecessarily cruel and can only be described as acts of the devil. It goes on and on and on. But as David Walker wrote in his Appeal of 1829, the white men acted more like devils than accountable men. Whites have always been unjust, jealous, unmerciful, avaricious, and bloodthirsty set of beings, always seeking after power and authority. It was not enough for whites to come to the Americas and learn. They looked upon the native people as inferior and to be annihilated. Using Christianity as their excuse, the white race denied the native people their humanity. Even today, the descendants of these savage people pump guns and drugs into the black community. Yep, that's who's teaching your kids, folks, in schools these days. The 1619 Project, that's what's being taught to them. There you go. Pulitzer Prize winner, New York Times.